Okay, so moving ahead, we now have the next session by Miss Afreen Ahmad, who's the academic counselor from Advice Consultants. She is going to be moderating for the next 1 hour along with the University of Strathclyde. Uh, ma'am, I hand over the session to you. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is
Good afternoon.
Afreen from Advise International, Bangalore. To give you an introduction about Advise, we advise International is like a one-stop solution. We do free counseling since 1991. So we are into admissions abroad. So we cater to students where we help them with the application procedures, the visa formalities, helping students shortlisting the universities, helping them with the application procedure taken to, with regards to applying, what are the documents required. So we have expert counselors with us. We deal with more than 10 plus countries where we help students to fulfill their dreams abroad. And today's session, today we have with us the architecture department from University of Strath. So we have two renowned people. I will take time to introduce them. Today we have Dr. Grayson. He is a leader in architecture and has been a deputy head of the department since 2011. As the department head on the international activity since 2014, Dr. Grayson has worked with colleagues to establish collaborative agreement with institutions in East Asia, China and Inner Mongolia, South Asia, that's India and Hong Kong, South Asia, Malaysia, the Middle East, that's Qatar and Kuwait, and the USA, Arizona. In directing the groundbreaking faculty-wide postgraduate program in sustainable engineering, over the past 18 years, Dr. Grayson has seen well over 1,000 students from the integrated engineering and architecture courses successfully graduate and advance their careers in the industry and practice. Dr. Grayson was appointed as the first ever visiting professor at Arcosanti in Arizona, USA in 2013, subsequently launching a new MSc in architecture and ecology there, and then joining the steering committee of the Cosanti Foundation to guide the strategic development of Arcosanti in the years ahead. Currently, Dr. Gersons leads the CRIDS research cluster at STRAT towards resilient and sustainable responses to social, environmental, economic challenges associated with buildings and cities in both developed and developing countries. His own research contributions that aim to support design and decision making for more than balanced relationship between the built and the natural environments and develop innovative teaching methods for sustainable development have led to supervision of more than 30 postgraduate researchers over the past 10 years and around 70 peer-reviewed publications in these areas. Two of the projects he is currently leading were featured in the COPS 26 UK Universities Research Innovation Showcase. And now I will pass it on to Dr. Grayson to take it over. Can I invite Dr. Grayson?
Yes,
Sir,
good
over to
morning.
you.
Good morning, Afreen. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
I hope all is well with you and your colleagues.
Yes, all fine here. Hope you're safe too.
Thank you for the opportunity of speaking with you this morning.
Thank
Um,
you.
what we would like to do, myself and my colleague Robert, uh, who's he's a faculty international officer, and we'd like to give you a very kind of brief overview of the university and what students who come to study us might expect initially in terms of the university, the faculty, and Glasgow as a city. And then I'll say a bit more about the Department of Architecture, and then particularly the Masters in Architectural Design International. So if that's a good structure for you, we'll move forward on that basis. I just have one thing to ask you. I haven't used this particular platform before, so I just wanted to check that the screen sharing is what I'm used to on other platforms such as Zoom.
Alicia, can you help?
Yes, sir, there's a small icon at the bottom saying present now
Yeah.
beside the raise hand. Can you please click on that? And
Yeah.
then it will give you the option. If you are not confident, you can present your entire screen and then you can select whichever window you want us to see.
David, are you okay just to start with your main presentation and flick through the intro slides on my behalf? I think that'll be easier. And
Sure,
then
I can do that. I'm just starting the sharing at the moment.
sorry. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Are you able to see that now?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh, wait a minute, I'll just go back and go to initial slide.
Perfect.
Okay, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
All right. You just tell me when you want to move on, Robert. I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you, David. And yeah, very, very quickly, I know I don't want to take up any more of our allocated time. So my name's Robert Graham, and I work specifically for the faculty, and I work closely with David on international partnerships, specifically for architecture and student recruitment across the faculty. So if we just move on to the next slide. Yeah, I've done the welcome. So thank you very much for having us. And as David says, I'm just going to quickly give an introduction, just really a scene setting scenario to the university and where architecture sits within the other departments. And then, of course, hand over to the main session today, over to Dr. Grierson. So if we just move on to the next slide. Yeah, so the university, for those of you that don't know, I'm sure some of you have done research. So we have many, many years of tradition, okay? So founded way back in the year of 1796. So with that, we have grown and grown to become, of course, one of the biggest universities in Scotland, but also recognised throughout the rest of the UK and throughout the globe as well, and throughout Europe too. And of course, with that, our student population has grown and grown over years, and we're built on what we call this tradition of useful learning, and that's about giving our expertise back to the community as well, and to make sure our students have got a really good, strong link with industry. So if we move on now, and we'll just speak about where we sit in terms of our location. We're, of course, within Scotland, which is in the north of the UK. I'm sure you all know that. Now, this is the city of Glasgow, and we are right in the heart of the city of Glasgow, okay? And with that, it means that everything is very close to you, whether it be, the transport links, the shopping centres, for your clothing, but also for your daily and weekly shopping for your food as well, okay? And as we see an end to the COVID restrictions, we are seeing Glasgow as a city coming back to its vibrant best as it was beforehand, and now we're seeing the city come alive again, and that is very pertinent for potential students like yourselves and current students, because it's very much a hub for international students with lots of events and lots of things to do in the city centre, all of. So if we speak a bit more about the country of Scotland, which is where we, of course, are, where Glasgow is located in. So the beauty with Scotland is you're always very close, of course, to the city life, and the capital, Edinburgh, is only about 50 minutes train journey from Glasgow. So a lot is in the central belt, but then if you only about 45 to 50 minutes away, you have access to beautiful scenery and beautiful hillside, like this image on the top right here. And that is one of the many reasons that Scotland as a location, and in particular Glasgow, has become very much a hub for international students. Slightly smaller population than India. We've got just over 5 million people, but we see that as a big benefit because you get to know your way around very quickly, and you get a very warm and friendly welcome. So if we just move on And I'll give you an indication of how centrally based we are. If you look at the navy blue shaded out blocks, that is where our campus is, and it just gives an indication of how centrally based we are in terms of our location within the city centre. And again, we're close to the main shopping centres and the main transport links as well. So that gives you a good indication of that. So if we move on to where we sit in terms of architecture. So the faculty, very large faculty, the largest faculty of engineering in Scotland and one of the largest and most successful in Europe. And architecture, of course, is one of our very successful 8 different departments. Now, slightly different to some other institutions where architecture may be within the design or the design school, but we are very proud to have it within the Faculty of Engineering. And you see where it sits within all our other core subject areas, but architecture is very much a very strategically important part of our faculty. So if we go on to the next slide, and this just gives an indication of our rankings at a subject level. Okay, now university-wide, we've won many prestigious awards, including University of the Year on 2 separate occasions in recent years. But if you look even closer, and in particular the bolded bullet point there for architecture, it shows how strongly we do at a subject level, okay? And that is something that is very prominent throughout the faculty, and in particular with architecture as well. So again, David will go into more detail on this, but if we just move on. And that's really all I've got to say. I just wanted to give you a brief introduction and, of course, hand over to the main session from Dr. David Grierson. So thank you very much, David. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. So as I say, I'll just generally say a few words about the department before going into more detail about the Master in Architecture International and other aspects of the facilities and the programs within our department. We are among, as Robert said, one of the largest, but also one of the oldest departments of architecture in the UK. And we're proud to produce graduates that we believe are well prepared to meet the ever-changing architectural demands of this century. We teach our students to communicate and to collaborate within an international studio environment. And we do that by drawing on the expertise of our academics and the experience of our professional architects who contribute to the programme. And through the years, graduates from our programmes have gone on to work with some of the world's most prestigious architects. And for those of you who are not aware, these architects that are shown on the slide from top to bottom are Zaha Hadid, Sir Norman Foster, and Sir Richard Rogers. And our graduates have been placed in the offices of all 3 of these very important architects over the years. 2 key aspects that characterise our provision. So we aim to balance students' learning by exposing them to local and global contexts that emphasise that there are multiple roles that future architects will have to play in very many different situations. And those roles range from individual design decision-making to being the facilitator for large-scale design teams. We also focus on implementing experiential, active, research-based and reflective learning approaches. So here we're aiming to integrate the art of making and the act of making into students' learning. Architecture, of course, as you know, is both an art and a science. And we want to enable our students to develop an understanding and an ability to practice design as an evolving process, as the world evolves around the practice of architecture. Currently, we have around 627 students in the department. This data is from 2020-21, so last session. The number of undergraduate architecture students was 400. Number of postgraduate students, 227. And the percentage of international students within the department is around 20% at the moment. So we're keen to see that the research that takes place within the department informs our teaching. So research-led architectural programs. And that research is really in two key thematic areas. Sustainability of the built environment, where we look at design and technology, we look at architectural design and conservation, aspects of construction law, and also innovative construction technologies and BIM, which is really becoming an industry standard in the UK and further afield. And the second thematic area is in urbanism and global cities. So we're looking at the built environment in terms of the architecture and how that also relates more widely to aspects of urbanism and global cities in terms of urban design, and with a focus on the global south and also cultural and historical studies. And both of these areas are informing our contribution to addressing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We also have an area of investigation that directly relates to built environment education and pedagogy. So that's a cross-cutting research area that works within both of these wider thematic areas. These are our architecture programs. So we have the professional programs that you can see on the top, undergraduate BSc. We have an MArch AAD program, and the one that we'll look at in more detail, Architectural Design International, the 2-year program. We also have a number of research-led specialist MSc programs, a growing number. We're adding more in this current academic cycle. And the ones that we have at the moment focus on conservation of built heritage, advanced construction technologies, and BIM, architecture and ecology, and urban design. And we also have a very buoyant research program with one of the largest cohorts of PhD, MPhil, and MRes students in the UK. Our provision is widely recognised. Our undergraduate and postgraduate professional programs are accredited and validated by the ARB and the RIBA, and also by the Board of Architects in Malaysia. We have, through the years, been highly rated by national assessments of teaching quality, and our students have been very successful in winning many national and international awards and design competitions. And as I've said, we have one of the largest cohorts of PhD students in architecture. One of the things that characterises the university and the faculty and our department is the strong links that we have with practice across the UK. As Robert says, our ethos is one of useful learning, and we aim to apply that learning in partnership with business and industry to global problems that we all share. So implementing the work that we do in order to make a difference. And this leads to a number of different career opportunities for our architecture graduates in large multidisciplinary practices and also small architectural firms. And students are educated to be able to contribute to both of these different types of practice. In terms of the league tables, we're pleased to have been ranked first in Scotland for a number of years. And more recently, we've risen to third in the UK in the subject ranking. And this is a measure of different criteria relating to our entry standards, how satisfied the students are with our provision, the research quality that takes place within the department and the intensity of that research, how much of it there is going on, and also the prospects that our graduates have for finding employment once they leave the university. And we are one of the highest scoring architecture departments in the UK for these career prospects. With the GO survey at HESA, the Higher Education Statistics Authority places that at 97% of our graduates who find a place within the first year and a half of graduation. And here's an example of one of our graduates, John Keat here, who graduated from a specialist MSc in architectural ecology and went on to be a sustainability consultant in Kuala Lumpur thereafter. So that's just a broad brush introduction to the department, and I'd like now to focus in on our specific program that I believe you'll be interested in the MArch Architectural Design International. As I say, this is a 2-year program which is recognised by the RIBA and accredited by ARB. RIBA Part 2 equivalence is how this course corresponds. So it provides exemption from Part 2 criteria over a 24-month period. Postgraduate diploma in both courses is completed over 21 months full-time, and then there's an additional component which relates to the MArch dissertation. So that's semester 5. As I say, it's a full-time course. We have a 5-day timetable at the university. And one of these days is a full day of studio teaching with tutors from various architectural practices around Glasgow and in Scotland. We also have a series of workshops where the students are able to have hands-on experience of aspects that inform the design studio process. And there are a number of associated classes and seminars in various subject areas that respond to the curriculum relating to RIB criteria. Around 50% of the timetabled activity is self-study studio time, whilst the students are working in the studio on design projects that are supported by their studio tutors. So we have 120 credits in each academic year. awarded through a curriculum of continual assessment. That takes place across each of the years, and there are intermittent review periods of the work that the students submit. As I say, 50% of that is awarded for architectural design studio projects, and the remaining credits through the class assignments within the various subject areas. And then that final component is 60 credits of the MArch dissertation. And whilst they're completing their work, students will be encouraged to systematically build up a portfolio to be assessed against the RIBA Part 2 criteria. These are the course classes that we have within the programme. Design studies in the first year of the MArch International involve looking at strategy for city, urban and civic buildings, and also an examination of the culture of the city. While in the second year, the students look in depth at the development of a thesis, exploring topics that relate to the urgency of problems that we're confronted in different aspects, be that social, environmental, or economic aspects that relate to the built environment. We also have components of history and theory, urban design and culture, and technology and environment. Again, RIBA criteria elements that are embedded within the cultural studies programme, and the students develop a dissertation related to topics that are informing their design studio project. And we also have inputs on professional studies to prepare the students for their role in the architectural profession as part of a practice. And we have practitioners from Glasgow and wider Scotland come and speak with the students within that professional studies programme. Then there are a series of optional and special study classes which students can select depending on their own areas of interest, covering different aspects of architecture, again related in part to aspects, for example, of sustainability, of architectural conservation, of technology, environmental issues, climate change, and so on. So these are special study areas that the students can develop as part of their own curriculum by selecting those classes. So we are located on level 3 of what's called the James Weir building, which is a listed building in our campus. We have 2 dedicated studios. We've got woodworking workshop, and we have our own in-house library. Our digital centre has large format printing facilities and scanning facilities, as well as laser cutting. And we make extensive use of the campus, the wider campus, for central teaching, for lectures and computer labs. So we have our own building or floor within the building, but we also use the facilities around the campus to allow our students to have access to a wider range of facilities that the university has to offer. Our main studio is used for self-study by the students and is all fully networked. We have another studio that is adjacent to this one. But our main studio is one where the students will be able to meet others. They use the space as is necessary for them. And as I say, it's fully networked. The floor has a mixture of large open plan studio spaces and smaller working environments. So it's flexible. It can be broken down into smaller areas for seminar space and can accommodate larger groups for presentations and year meetings and so on. So this is where the studio teaching and the tutorials take place. And as I've said, there's a flexibility built in to the design of the department where spaces can be reconfigured for various uses and activities. Here, for design reviews as part of the assessment of design project work using the digital facilities. But we can also set up same spaces for exhibitions of the students' work at certain points in the year. Actually, these exhibition panels are tabletops. So these have been designed specifically for that purpose, so the students can work on the table, but then they can also use the tabletops for exhibiting their project work. And we also make use of the main circulation spaces in the department as display corridors to show others the work that's ongoing within the department during that current and previous year. As I say, we have our own in-house library that has all current journals that are accessed by students, as well as previous PhD thesis and dissertation work from the MSc students. And this is also a place where the students will gather in smaller groups to have their own student liaison meetings in order to inform some of the decisions that are being made within the department. Here are woodworking workshops that are co-located with other laboratories and workshop facilities within the engineering faculty. And this is where students will work with a supervisor in building models that represent their design projects. We also have a number of computer labs within both the James Weir building and elsewhere on campus. And the students have access to these and the software that's licensed on all of these computer lab facilities. As I mentioned, we have sufficient flexibility of space to be able also to create areas for lectures and seminars for the special study classes, and those other teaching areas that inform the studio are co-located within the studio design spaces. Now, a few examples of the students' work. I won't go into too much detail. I suppose the images are probably best left to speak for themselves. But all of this work has been produced by our students over recent years. This is work from the year one of the programme. As you can imagine, in year one of the programme, which is effectively the honours year of the undergraduate programme, the buildings that the students are working on are fairly complex, and they're asked to really demonstrate their understanding of the integration of construction, structure, technology and environment within their proposals. Design Studio is structured into units, so around 12 to 15 students will work with 2 tutors who will guide them through the development of the project work from concept through to detailed design. When students are completed at an interim stage, there will be a presentation, and that work will then be developed further towards final completion and the review and assessment, the formal assessment of the project work, again within a studio environment and digitally presented. But the students will also prepare documents and publications related to the design project work to submit to the reviewers. We do focus quite a bit on live build work, where students are encouraged to not just to think, but to build their ideas, to represent their ideas in built form. And we encourage the students to be collaborative and to work with practitioners, not only in the studio, but also within their special study projects. So in the classwork that they do, in the workshops and seminars, to be working with each other, but also to be working with those that are in practice and have expertise that they're bringing to bear in the studio. So we do have students working directly with industry representatives on specific projects within their classwork. And we have structured study visits where students are able to take the opportunity to go and visit other cultures and experience some prestigious and important architecture that's available to visit in other countries. Mentioned exhibitions earlier. We have our annual end of year show where all students who graduate from the programme have space to showcase their work to a wider audience. We invite many industry and practice partners to the end of year exhibitions. It's quite a social event in Glasgow, and is very well attended by architectural practice. And often we'll hire out space in the city in order to showcase some of the work that has been produced in that particular cohort. So this is an example of renting out some retail space in Glasgow city centre and exhibiting some of our students' work. Okay, that's all I have in this presentation. So I'll stop sharing. I hope you found that useful.
Yes, thank you so much for such an informative session, Professor. It was very interesting to go through the experience of your whole course curriculum and campus life.
Okay, I can't seem to get back to the. I've stopped sharing, but I'll let me just see if I can move that. That's better. Okay.
Alicia, have you got any questions from any of
Yes,
the audience?
yes, we
Great.
have, sir. A couple of questions we have. The first question is that when students apply, what are the main key aspects that you look in the application and the portfolio for?
Okay. So we obviously have entry requirements in terms of subject areas, where we're looking for the students to have reached a certain academic level
Okay,
of competence, and that, in our case, relates particularly to aspects of English language and mathematics, and there's also a requirement for those students who are entering into our postgraduate program to demonstrate their skills through a portfolio of work that they've done at undergraduate level. So they would have to submit a portfolio of design studio project work that they've done, architectural work of something in the order of 15 images or so. And the reason for that is to just make sure that they are at the correct level in terms of their representational skills in architecture to be able to successfully complete the MArch.
correct,
And
correct.
Alicia, just to add to that, for students that are serious about applying in advance of their application, we actually are now trialing some portfolio preparation sessions. So there'll be opportunities for students who are very serious about coming, and that is particularly for the MArch, which David was speaking about.
Correct, because this question was also in terms of the fact that because they know that they have to prepare a portfolio, but they don't know what should the portfolio focus on. Even if they have a project, like what aspects of the project should they be focusing on? So that is
Yeah, I think there's scope there then, Alicia, for us to do another session, and we can speak about that offline in terms of the
sure.
mechanics of that.
We can definitely have a more elaborate session on that
Yeah.
sometime in the future.
I think the key thing is to be able to demonstrate in your portfolio that you have a grasp of how a building is planned and how it can be represented in 3 dimensions. So, sectional aspects of a building,
Correct.
and
Yes, sir.
as well at that level. This is not. I'm sure my other colleagues will be better placed to discuss the portfolio with you, but just in a wider sense, it's how you can envisage your ideas being represented. A big part of what we're doing as architects is communicating with our clients. So it's how the building can be communicated effectively, but that requires an understanding of the 3 dimensions of architecture.
Correct. And the key is to visual representation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because you also spoke about academic proficiency that you look for. So, in that one part of it is like you said that the proficiency in the English language, which can of course be judged by the exams that we have. But apart from that, how so their performances at the undergraduate level is also important. How they're scoring in their undergrad is also important.
Yes. It's important. I think that there's a equivalence in terms of their qualifications, which we would match in relation to their first degree. So we would be looking for an equivalent matching in that regard. Yeah.
For Indian undergraduate, Alicia, generally we're looking for around about 60% or the equivalent GPA.
Correct.
Yeah, and we obviously take many applications from India, so we're very used to seeing the various institutions and the qualifications.
Yes.
But on average, it's like 60% or equivalent GPA.
Okay, understood, Professor. One more question was, is work experience compulsory for doing masters?
No, it's not. So, I mean, obviously, it'd be useful for those that have more experience, to help them in a rounded way, but it's not a requirement for entry into the master's program.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if the students want, they can directly apply after their completion of the undergraduate program.
Yes, they can.
Okay.
And Alicia, sorry again, that's quite a common route for students. Like the main things, again, just to reiterate what Dr. Gleeson was saying, that the main issues we're looking at is their academic attainment, the portfolio for the relevant architecture programs, and their evidence of English language. And normally students would need to supply 2 references, but that's the key things. And obviously agents like yourselves who are working with the students can give that advice, and we can give advice from our admissions team as well. So it's fairly straightforward for a postgraduate taught application, to be honest.
Okay, understood, sir. Yeah. One more question is with regard to the program that you talked about, the third type of program where you have a combination of like the combination of hardcore architecture with education, those kind of programs where pedagogy is all involved. So can you throw some more light on that, like what type of career prospects people have after such programs?
So what I was describing there was the kind of research work that we do. And the research work in pedagogy is really an investigation into how we learn.
Correct.
So, for example, education for sustainable development, what aspects of that are important for an architectural education? So we can look at the environment that consumes fewer resources, uses less energy, and how do we embed that within the architectural education program? Okay.
So do you have, yeah, sorry to interrupt. So do you have proper PhD programs or prospects also on those similar lines or within that subdiscipline?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we've had some students recently look into those topics within that area.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there any more question from the students' side? Anyone?
I have a quick question. I just wanted to know if there have been any academic collaborations which encourage students to have student exchange opportunities, go to the other university, learn a different topic, or specialize in a particular topic and come back. Has University of Strathclyde sort of collaborated with industry or any other academic institutions where students get to explore many more topics?
I'm not sure I fully understand. If your question is, I'll maybe just try and answer what I think that is. Are you asking then that do we have collaborations with other institutions where we're working on certain project work or joint project work, and students who do that work then come back to Strathclyde?
That's right.
Yes. Yes, we do. That's a core activity of what we actually do. We have a whole host of partnerships with other industrial partners and also other academic partners. And we have student exchange programs, many, for example, where we would have students spend one semester or a full year, academic year, in one of our host partners, and then complete the studies of that program and come back, and those studies are recognised within Strathclyde. And similarly, we have industrial partnerships where students will spend time working with that partner on largely MSc project work or part of their PhD work, and then take the results, the outcomes of that project work, and bring it back into their studies at Strathclyde. So that's a fundamental aspect of what we do.
Yeah.
It's not, of course, not everyone does that. In many cases, and even to a smaller extent, our programs are embedded with industry input. So we'll have architects coming in and contributing to a lecture series or seminars or discussions, or taking part in some of the project work. Our studio is really taught in a significant part by practicing architects who join forces with our academics to teach studio work, and in small groups of students working with both, a practitioner and an academic.
In the lines of,
Yeah.
sorry, please go ahead.
I was just asking if I answered your question.
Yes, that really helped. And just to continue with the previous question that Alicia posed in the lines of PhD, as a faculty, I would be interested in taking up PhD sometime in the near future. And I would want to know if there are part-time PhDs available, or, so that my research is based in India and of India. So can there be a possibility in that direction?
Excuse me. Yes. A part-time PhD study is possible. It's, I'm sure you'll be aware, but it's already a long process.
Right.
So we're looking at 36 months plus a year writing up. So 48 months in total. Part-time does make that a long process, but it's available on a case-by-case basis to discuss the desire to have part-time doctoral studies for a particular candidate. It all really depends on the submission that you make and the kind of project that you want to work on.
Right.
But we have had part-time PhD students in the past.
That's nice to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor, one student has raised her hand. Priyanshi Sahu, do you have a question?
Thanks, Alicia.
Yes. Priyanshi?
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Maybe that's a mistake.
Okay. One last question we have, Professor, before we... Yes, the question is with respect to the pandemic. So post-pandemic, how has the entire culture of your campus culture, the culture of education in Strathclyde, and even the application and admissions for that matter, is there any transformation, or has there been any permanent transition, or is it now back to what it used to be before?
So I suppose it's fair to say that we're still, to some extent, in the pandemic.
Correct.
So what we did these past 2 years was to transition very quickly to remote learning, which has been very successful, I must say. for certain aspects of our delivery. And the students, we've done numerous surveys and had discussions with the students about what aspects of that transition to remote learning were they valued and what aspects that they found difficult. And I think we're now forming a view that there will be certain components that we've learned that we'll put into practice going forward, but that our ambition from the new academic session is to be on campus, but to have that those aspects which have been particularly successful and which the students have valued to continue on a more remote online basis. So it will be, as I'm sure you're familiar, will be a blended approach. But the intention, as we speak, is for that to be centered on campus.
Agreed.
And I'm sure this is a similar position that we're all we're discussing and dealing with at the moment. But of course, it's clear that things seem to be moving in the right direction. So we should be relieved about this, but we're not out of the woods yet, as they say. We need to be vigilant, and we're still. Also, we have learned a lot over these past 2 years that I think is valuable to learning.
Yeah.
To learning.
And Alicia, just to add to what David's saying, like in terms of the admissions process, it's still, as I was saying earlier, there's not a huge change to that in terms of the actual process. And if anything, we're always aiming to turn around our offer letters even quicker. So it's still the same academic requirements, and likewise, in order for the student to get their visa, it's very much there's not been a huge change to that. It's mainly obviously been the teaching and learning where we've adapted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I agree. And I hope that we are now back to normal anytime soon.
Yeah, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, professors, thank you so much for your time. This has been a very insightful session for our students. It was a delight and a pleasure having you on board with us at this event.
Okay. Can I quickly ask, Alicia, do you work directly for RV College, or
Sorry?
do you work directly for RV College, or are you?
Yes.
All right, you do. Sorry, because I know it was
Yeah.
organised through one of our partners.
Yes. We are we are a team of assistant professors at RV College, and we are arranging this for students all across the country. Like, it's not restricted only to RV College students. It's also for everyone and anyone who wants to pursue masters abroad. So this is the second season, sir. We had the first season of this event last year, which also went quite well, and this time we've got a better response overall. So we are happy to have you as a part of it.
Okay, that's good. Excellent. It would be good if we can have some dialogue after this to look at other activities. That would be great.
Sure. We should definitely have that, sir. We'll take your contact from Miss Afreen probably, and we can discuss further.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Alicia, and the
Thank
team
you, sir.
of RV students. Hope your questions were answered, and you've got a lot of inputs from the University of Strath. And thank you, Dr. David and Mr. Robert. Now, further about the applications or any help you want us to do related to applications, helping students with the application procedures, advice is located in Bangalore. We are at MG Road. So we have concerned counselors here, a dedicated team of UK counselors who will help you with the application procedure and the visas. Our services are totally free. So we will guide you throughout the process in terms of applications for the respective university. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, team, for joining with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Afreen. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you,
Take care.
professors.
Bye.
Bye-bye.